Hello, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very happy to welcome with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a real estate and family law firm out in the Worcester area, and she and her team are fantastic at what they do. Today, we are going to talk about people that everybody knows, the ones that just do what they want, no matter what a piece of paper might say that was drawn up by an attorney. And I want to welcome you today, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. And you know what? You're right. Everybody does it.
It's true. I mean, and so today we're going to be talking about this in the genre of, someone passes away and they have a will, and hey, they're dead, so we don't have to listen to what they say, right?
Yeah, except you do.
So, I mean, let's open up the topic. Do you see this happen quite often? I know that you work in this area all the time.
I think I see it happen more often than it should. But sometimes it's just, hey, look, well, I don't really have a need for that. So we'll just give it to somebody else. Well, great, but if you don't claim it, there's a hierarchy. They have to follow the rules. So if you want to disclaim it, it goes to the next person. Well, no, but I don't want that. Well, that's not your choice. So sometimes, people really do that. And a lot of times it's more on sentimental things. Obviously, people don't nitpick at all their furniture. Divide the property, sell, so the personal property. Nobody cares. But if I leave a vehicle, a 2020 blah, 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 then that 2020 must go to that person. So a lot of times it's the smaller items that nobody cares about, but we talk about the big items like the cars and everything else. And oh, well, we'll just give that bank account to so and so. No.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. And it might be that that person feels like the other person could use it, but the decedent has decided ahead of time where they want their belongings to go. And they also do, like, I remember when you did my will, we had to kill everybody off. Like, what if this person isn't even alive? How can they take your child or, take your horse or whatever it is? I mean, what are you gonna do? So, I, I guess when this ha well, first let's talk about who actually looks at the will and makes the decisions and informs everybody. There is somebody that is supposed to take care of that, right?
Well, in an ideal world, let's just say, I'm one of the children of the decedent and I have 5 siblings. I arguably am going to say, hey, 5 siblings, this is mom or dad's will. Here you go. And then we're going to look at the will and we're going to say, oh, I'm in charge. Congratulations. Thank you, me. So now I've got to look at it and go, okay, but Sally gets this and Chris gets this and Steve gets this. And I have to allocate it. But wait a minute. I don't get to do that immediately. People, one, want to jump the gun and say, well, we want to do it right now. No, no, no. There's a time and place for that. So the reality is we have to follow the procedures and make sure it's going according as planned. So we have to get authority. Just because on paper it says I have the authority, the court hasn't appointed me. Maybe my siblings are going to contest the will and say, I don't want you in charge. You're crazy and you've got a criminal record. You're a thief. So we have to get permission of either the other heirs that are listed in the will or court permission, preferably both.
And two, aren't there bills that need to be paid first? Because with some of the money aspect of a will, you get what's left over after the creditors are paid off. Isn't that right?
Not necessarily creditors, but yes, there is a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is not you. The hierarchy is going to be the funeral home. the expenses for burial, the taxes. Those are the things that come first before anyone else gets their assets. So yes, there's definitely a hierarchy that needs to be followed, and it's usually the very first thing listed in anyone's will after we are of sound mind, right? Then we go through, okay, I direct that my representative pay the following expenses. And it's really by statute, but that's what we have to do first and foremost. And yes, distribution should not be made for a year after date of death.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a year. I mean, you have to also let everyone else know that the person passed away, right? Is that something that you always do? You try to find all the family members and let them know?
At least everyone that is listed in the will or anybody that is a family member. So again, if it's my siblings, I have to let all my siblings know. Even if one of them was excluded, I still have to let them know. Because again, they have the right to look at the will and go, I'm contesting that. If, in this scenario, my father was alive, then my father would have to be notified as well. So it all depends on what that family unit looks like. And obviously, I'm going to say talk to an attorney about that because it's going to be changing. And I can do all these scenarios and we could be here till the end of time with me going through them. But really, you need to know who to serve and you need to list all of the people that are in the will as well as the appropriate heirs and devisees.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So in that year, you're putting all of your ducks in a row. You're making sure that you have the right permissions, you're making sure you have the right people, and then you're able to give people what was allocated to them in the will.
Absolutely.
Is there a certain time period where people are allowed to object to something going to someone else in the will besides themselves? I mean, maybe grandma said, "Hey, you can have this ring and it's in the will as going to someone else and she just forgot to change the will." I mean, I'm sure people will, say that occasionally too.
They do. And it's really hard when we're talking about rings and jewelry because it's really hard if it's not similar. Oh, it's the 14 karat. Well, this is the 10 karat. Okay, you really have to define what that looks like. But yes, the answer is when we're filing the formal probate or the informal probate, there's going to be a time frame in which you have to object. And then you have to state what your objection is. So once that time passes, then you have to follow it. But again, you can move to strike the will. You can say the will is invalid. So you have that opportunity in the beginning to do that. Once that time passes, that person has to follow accordance with the will, or everyone has to agree and the court has to approve of any change.
I mean, what do you do? Like, I always feel like there are situations where people are vultures and they go to the house of whoever died and they just start taking things and giving things to other people, giving things away. And then you're talking a year later, this thing happens the weekend of. Like, what do you see that happen a lot? I feel like people don't understand what the process is and that they could get in a lot of trouble, right?
Unfortunately, the vultures usually start when you're at the funeral. So while you're at the funeral and you're grieving a family member, they're at the house taking everything of value. And I just can't tell you how wrong that is. I mean, on so many levels. And by the way, it's called larceny. It's called breaking and entering. So let's be clear about that. There are criminal offenses associated with doing something like that. But people think that they can get away with it because nobody will be at the house. Oh my God, I got the house all to myself. Look at me. Congrats. Thanks. Let's go to jail. So you really have that issue that really kind of takes control of situations. And it's really hard because now you're running into court and saying, well, I don't really know what was taken. But I know that this, and this was left in the will and it's no longer exists. And they're going to say, oh, no, that was sold. Sally sold that 100 years ago. Really? And so now you run into that situation where If we can't find it, we can't give it to you.
It's too bad. I mean, because a lot of the things that, like when we were talking about jewelry, that is easy to pocket. And you could go in, you might be seen by the ring camera going in there, but there's no proof that you did anything unless there's cameras inside too and they could see you. But I mean, that's the likelihood of that is pretty low.
Absolutely. And that's why, again, I'm going to go with it's still breaking and entering. So you always run the risk of some kind of criminal intervention. Again, don't bother. Don't do that. I mean, I think it's the hardest thing is when people don't define it. My great grandmother's wedding ring. No, that wasn't your great grandmother's. That was her grandmother. And that's a different ring entirely. And then that's where you get in the problem. So if you're going to have something and you can't specifically earmark it as something else, then if nothing else, take a picture. Add it as an exhibit to the will. I've never had a problem going, look, this is the ring. It's the same one that's on your finger and in the picture. Great. So that there is a way to get around it and or put an addendum to the will, things of that nature that you can certainly help if you're identifying things that could be easily mixed up.
I mean, absolutely. So, what do you do when that have you had to deal with that before? Is there anything you can do plundering the house while someone is at the funeral?
I think the best part is going to be, have that person removed. So if they are supposed to be the personal representative, or maybe they're the person that's getting disinherited, see what you can do to put a value on it. See what you can do to have consequences. I mean, we had somebody the other day that was putting, money, taking money out of the account. Well, that's much easier to figure out who's doing that because it wasn't signed by the person on the account, right? Um, and that's fraud. And again, larceny. So we can go after them criminally on some of the stuff. Some of the other stuff, it's going to be, well, we need to remove them as personal representative because obviously they're not being truthful. They're not being forthcoming. They're breaching their fiduciary obligation. The harder circumstances is where we don't have the proof of anything really happening and we just suspect. And that really kind of leaves it up to the court's discretion. So unfortunately, in those circumstances, you hopefully have a good attorney that's going to be able to make good arguments and the judge is going to see it your way.
I hope so. You can put a value on it and maybe hopefully get the money back. It's hard to prove, but you can get them on something else. So that's really good. So what other aspects of this topic would you like to talk about today?
I think, it's one of those things that it happens more often and people were like, yeah, that's okay that, my daughter can use the car, your daughter doesn't need the car. And we start again trying to I don't want to say chess pieces, but we're moving the pieces around. We're definitely doing what we want to do. And again, at the end of the day, if it's just a monetary thing that we're splitting half of the assets, great. Okay, we put a value to that car. That car is worth $10,000. Great, that goes on your side. I'm going to get $10,000 extra in cash. So there are times that we can do that. But again, we need to know what the values of things are, and we need to agree on values. So it's really behooves you to come up with the numbers immediately before you start doing this.
I mean, because some things go down in value over the years, and you're lucky if somebody has a will to begin with, right? And it's not even very likely that they've updated it to update the values of everything in the will. So, I mean, there's that to consider as well. I mean, I know rings, people buy them and they actually go down in value most of the time.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, the reality is most people that are leaving jewelry are leaving it for sentimental reasons. I can tell you right now, my dad said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want that ring." I had no idea what the value was. I didn't care about the value because when I look at that ring, I think of my father. That's why I want it. Because every time I look at it, I go, that's dad.
So, what if there is a disagreement as to the distribution? I mean, I mentioned before that, someone, grandma might have said, I really want you to have this. And it's unfortunately in the will that she put together 10 years ago that it was going to your sister. What happens then?
Well, unfortunately, it's going to go to the sister. So unless she's contesting the will and she properly did it timely, and the court said she died intestate, then it's going to go to your sister. The question is whether or not your sister is going to know about that conversation, agree with that conversation, or is even going to care about that conversation. So really, unfortunately, it is going to that person. But, the other part of that is it's not a sentimental thing. It's a distribution. And they're saying, no, I'm disagreeing with the numbers. The numbers don't even make sense. I don't disagree with the value of the vehicle, and I disagree with the bank accounts. And this bank account should be included as well. Maybe it was a joint account, but that the decedent was the only one that ever put money in and your name was on it. Is it an account for both of you and really a joint account, or is it the decedent's account? So that's really where you're going to come into play with other disputes regarding monetary things. And then we have to look at, well, did you contribute to that account, or was it only the decedent? Who was the one that used that account on a regular basis? If it was just the decedent, then it's a convenience account, in which case it should be part of the estate. But again, that's something that the court is going to have to determine if the parties can't agree.
I mean, that's really interesting because so many things that you put together you have for a very long time. So when you buy your house, there's particular insurance that you can get that pays the house off and you can put in there who you want to have the house. And that's like on the bank documents. Same thing with bank accounts. You can say, "Oh, if something happens to me, this bank account goes to my sister." And I'm sure my sister is on a lot of that stuff. But I'm married now, and she's not going to get all that. So, I mean, what do you do with old information? What if the documents are dueling documents where the bank says one thing and the will says something else?
Well, and that's your exact case, usually with a joint account. And the court's going to go, let's see, counsel. And again, I'm going to go back to, is it something that you've ever contributed? Did you even know it existed? You don't get to have a bonus. Oh, look, I got money just because. I mean, if nobody disagrees and you're the only heir, great. That's easy, right? And it goes outside of probate. But if there are other heirs, then no, it doesn't necessarily do that. We have to look at, again, was it a convenience account or was it not?
I mean, yeah, and sometimes it's not even a joint account. Sometimes you just put someone's name on there so that it doesn't go to the state when you die. Because when you're younger and you're in your, 20s and you're not married yet, you probably have your mom or your sister or someone like that on a lot of your property, um, your car, all these different things. And then you just kind of forget about it. And years go by and you know, you don't change your will and you don't change all these little documents that are for different accounts. And I could see where it'd be a nightmare. Families break up over
Mhm.
funerals and wills and everything. Brothers and sisters will fight and never talk again after mom or dad dies because, oh, she left this kid the house because he was divorced and he didn't have anything. And the other two kids had families and nice houses and their lives seemed to be all set up. So she left, she wanted to take care of the son that, was having problems. And, a lot of people think, no, it should just all be even, but it's really up to whoever owned the house.
It really is. And again, just because you have, the standard language is, well, I've taken care of Sally during my lifetime. Okay, whatever. That's always a cop out statement. But the reality is maybe Sally is a billionaire and really doesn't need it. Um, but, it doesn't really matter what the reason is. It's their money. They're allowed to do with what they want with it. So it's really hard for people to swallow because, again, why aren't I getting everything equal? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen it. And my mother comes to me and goes, Well, I'm giving you this, so I'm going to give your brother this. Okay. Like, I don't care, but I'm not the norm of my clients. Unfortunately, a lot of my clients do care about that. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah, I mean, some people are expecting a lot when their parents pass away, and they may be surprised by how the will is actually laid out or if they have a will at all, which is another whole problem, another whole episode.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that we can, one of the things I was talking about is we can figure out how to avoid probate court. Can we avoid it at times? And the answer is yes. So, that's something that is something that everyone should consider. But more importantly, again, look at your wills every couple of years, update them as needed. Because like you said, people do die, things do change. You hate somebody now that you loved before, whatever the case may be, but you really need to update that document, because if you did promise Sally the ring and instead your sister's getting it, well, so sad. We already covered that. So look at it and then update it according to what your wishes are today.
I mean, because I'll tell you, I have an aunt who is estranged from everyone else in the family, but her she somehow inherited everything from the grandparents. She took their power of attorney and she took care of them, and so she took everything from them. And then my nana, that was her mom, her brother and her were estranged. He was married to someone, and I can't remember who died first, but somehow my grandmother got all of his estate and they hated each other. He was probably rolling in his grave. And then my aunt like lived with my nana. She got all that. And then my nana died and she had already done the power of attorney on that. She inherited three or four people's money and just by just, getting rid of people, isolating the grandparents and having them sign a power of attorney. And the family's livid over like there were lots and lots of fights as this stuff was going on over the years. But this one person, that was just her goal. It's unbelievable.
There are gold diggers within the family, and they will find the people that don't have children. Oh, look, you don't have children. I'll be nice to Sally because she doesn't have anyone. She's going to leave everything to me. And unfortunately, that does happen. Sometimes it happens, and we're going to leave it to the trainer. And we're going, what? Who? Who's this person? So sometimes it's somebody completely different. You're like, okay, but the trainers like going and get, personal trainers getting all the money and they didn't even exercise. Well, yeah, but they came over and saw, Carl every day and visited him every day. And so I'm more family to you than my family who doesn't even talk to me. And sometimes that's exactly how it happens.
It is funny because my mom has like an Airbnb and she has this woman that's staying there, and the woman gets on the phone with me and she's like, your mom and I, we just love each other. We were just meant to be. We knew we were meant to be when I moved in here 6 months ago. And my sister and I are like, oh my God. My mom's like, oh, she'll take care of me. I'm like, what? Because we don't live in that state. We live pretty far away. So it's like, when did this happen? So yeah, I'm totally expecting this woman to inherit everything.
Yep, you may be crossed out of that will.
Oh man, it's rough. It's rough. So is there anything that we can do to make sure that everything is kept up to date? I mean, I guess you have to communicate with your parents and make sure that because people start losing their memory as they get older. A lot of people do, and they don't remember to keep up with things. Sometimes they don't even remember to pay their bills. It's crazy. Do you have any advice on how to approach that with elderly family members?
Great question. I mean, I think the reality is, when you start seeing them slipping, have that conversation. As soon as it starts happening on a regular basis, have that conversation before it gets too late, because At some point, it's going to go, oh, well, she has dementia. Oh, she has Alzheimer's. And then you're screwed and you can't really get them to sign anything. So when you start noticing, you've told me the story 10 times in the last hour, let's do that if you haven't done it sooner. So when they start saying it the second time in the hour, you're going, maybe now is the time. Really, I mean, you kind of have to be on top of it as a family member and really kind of encourage them to do it, because the problem is if you force somebody to do it, then they're going to be inclined to go, you want to piss me off, that's fine, I'll just leave you out of the will entirely. And that's obviously not the goal, but they see it as you're calling into question my mental health, screw you. And they get very vocal and they get very defiant as a result of it. So that's something you got to be aware of.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the most difficult stories I've heard from people are those of like what to do with aging parents and they need extra help and they need to sign these living will type documents that, make sure that you know what to do if they get sick and if they're, hooked up to a machine and you you can help pay their bills and you can help do all this stuff if you have a power of attorney. And a lot of them don't even have a will. And you're trying to explain that, oh, the will is the most recognizable thing of all of these different documents, the health proxy and all of that. So to try to talk to them about, like I've talked to my mom about it probably 5 or 6 times over the last 5 years, and I'm gonna get to it. But every other week she's also on her deathbed. So I'm like, well, when? Like, why do you keep saying you're almost going to die, but you still don't have your will? This is ridiculous. I have my will.
And a lot of times it's because I don't want to think about it. What do you, I know what's going to happen. I know, but just stop. Just stop. I'm not ready for it yet. So don't worry about it. And that's their mentality, is they cannot bring themselves to do it. A lot of my clients are like, yeah, I know. I'm going to get to it. Okay, but you're sick. Yep. Okay, but you have stage 4 cancer. Yep. Okay, well, these are the things I want. Okay, but I need you to sign it. Well, okay, but yeah, I'm really busy. Okay, but let's make some time. Because unfortunately, I've had that call that, hey, my dad's not coming to the signing today at 2 o'clock. Oh, okay. Does he want to reschedule? No, he died this morning. Oh, okay. And what do you do with that? You're like, so sometimes I've gotten that phone call. Let me tell you, it's never a pleasant call because you're like, but if they just told me they were sick or they were telling, I would have fit them in somewhere else. And it's never because the client tells me that they, are terminal or something's happening. It's just we scheduled it and nobody bothered to tell me. So I wasn't in any rush and they said, oh, that time's fine. And then something goes and happens like that. So a lot of times things like that do happen and you don't know when it happens, unfortunately, until it's too late.
How about those people that plan their whole funeral, but they don't plan what's going to happen when they do start to decline their mental capacity? Like that's what happened with my mother too. She's like, I'm like, but what are your plans? Do you have a plan in place? Oh yeah, I've got my plot is all bought and I know what music I want at No, what what's gonna happen if you get sick or you don't remember things? And do you have a plan for that? Where do you want to live? You can have a say if you start talking about it now while you still know what you want instead of waiting till we have to try to pick something for you because, you keep falling down every other week and, it's terrible.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to keep saying this. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So, again, have that conversation. Try to convince whoever that the time is now. Because even if the attorney's going, okay, you don't really have a lot of assets. I mean, I talk to people that are college, they're like, I don't have anything. Okay, great. But do you really want your parents to have to think about some of this stuff? Oh, good point. So again, even if you only have a couple things that you want to give to somebody, mark it down. I mean, you still have something, and you're still going to have something of sentimental value at any age.
I mean, I got the big stuff accounted for, but I haven't thought about all the little things. I'm more worried about who's going to take the dogs. You know? Who wants an extra dog or two?
The dogs and the children are usually the big ticket items.
Well, I know. I shouldn't have mentioned dogs first. My daughter definitely is the most important thing, but that's already taken care of for sure. She'll go to my sister if anything happens to my ex and me at there's no one left. Let's let's hope.
Absolutely.
Let's hope nothing happens. But yeah, it's better to have a plan. So yeah, we've talked about this for quite a while. I know that we've hit a lot of topics and could just go on forever. There's probably a million stories that you have, but I guess what is the final the parting shot that we want to go with on this topic today because it is emotional and it does require planning about something that people, as you said, don't want to think about.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to one, you have to think about it. And two, don't be that money grubbing person. Respect the wishes of the person. Even if it's not something that you wanted, even if it doesn't make sense to you, it made sense to that person who signed that document. They thought about it. They decided it. They wrote it down. So don't just dismiss it. Again, if it's something they're going, I really don't need an extra car, then fine. Like I said, offset it with the value of something. And if your only thing you're getting is a car, then great, walk away. But don't decide for yourself, I'm going to disregard somebody's last wishes. Let's be clear about what it is. It's their last wish in life of what they wanted to do, and respect that.
Sage advice, and hopefully you didn't need to hear that. Hopefully you would just automatically respect someone's dying wish because um yeah, that's what it is, and they should get what they want. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Nicole. It's a crazy topic sometimes when you think about what people will do and the consequences of people passing away without good instructions or people not heeding the good instructions that they did leave. So I'm really glad you've given us a lot to think about today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you everyone for watching. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Have a great day.